What's up, everyone? That's really all I could just get out of right away. Just get out of. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Welcome to Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Kyle Nabors, along with Sean Hammond. As you can tell from the sound there at the beginning, things did not go well in Week 1 for the Bears. Sean,
That UG was for all of Bears fandom right there.
yeah, for all of the scenarios that we expected to play out yesterday, a complete ass whooping from the Packers is not something I envision, Sean.
Uh, I picked the Packers in this game, but I thought this would be a game, and it was not, especially in the second half. I mean, the Bears kind of hung around in the first half. I mean, you could kind of hang your head on that, but they didn't have a touchdown in that first half, and then things got way out of hand. And I mean, I feel you, Bears fans. This is a big letdown. It's only one game, but you're playing the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is sitting at home somewhere in New Jersey, and this is what happens, and that's a big letdown.
It's only one game. You're right, and it's easy to overact to season opener. But when you're going into year 2 of Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles, year 3 of Justin Fields, you had all the offseason hype. The Bears talking about it. It's a new era. Blah blah blah. And then you come out, and here we sit on Monday morning, Sean, and we're doing what feels to be the same show that you and I have been doing since we've been doing this show together.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're sitting at 11 straight losses, 9 straight against the Packers. It does feel like it's a Monday in 2022 right now, because that was the offense just didn't look good. The defense kind of looked like it did last year. There's problems on both sides of the ball right now, and the Bears have a lot to look through on the tape and a lot to figure out.
There's problems on both sides of the ball. There's problems on special teams. There's problems on the coaching staff. I mean, let's be frank. Matt Eberflus, Alan Williams, Luke Getsy, that entire coaching staff got absolutely pantsed yesterday by Matt LaFleur and his staff.
I mean, look, we didn't know what Jordan Love was going to be. We didn't know, what he was going to look like in this game. He might be good down the line. He might be an MVP someday. Who knows? Or he might just be a decent quarterback, or he might be trash. You don't know. At the end of the day, like, Matt LaFleur is showing that he's a really good NFL head coach. I mean, you don't, even with an Aaron Rodgers, you don't have the record that he has without doing some things right. And at this point, I know that last year's roster was deficient in a lot of areas, but we need to see more from Matt Eberflus and his staff moving forward. Like, we need to, I think I wrote one note in one of my stories last night that the silver lining, the one thing you can hang your hat on is that they adjusted the offense last year. And you would hope that if this keeps going the way it is, you would hope that they make some adjustments again this season.
Yeah, the coaching, they did a pretty decent job last year with adjustments. It's just, how do we get back to this offense in Week 1 of this year? I mean, I think you had in there, was it 10 passes behind the line of scrimmage, 8 completions, I want to say it was, for Justin Fields?
It was 14 of his 37 attempts were short of the line of scrimmage.
I mean, how is that possible?
Only 4 were more than 10 yards downfield, including the touchdown to Darnell Mooney. That was one of the 4. He was 2 for 4 on passes that went in the air that went beyond the line of, beyond 10 yards past the line of scrimmage.
Well, let's dive into that. But before we do, I want to make sure to get the propers out of the way. If you're watching live this morning on Facebook or YouTube, you can jump in and leave a comment for us. We'd love that you guys are helping us guide the show. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up. If you're watching later, give a comment as well. It helps people find the show on YouTube. We really appreciate that. You can find all of our content at shawlocal.com. You can follow Sean at Twitter at Sean_Hammond. You can find myself on Twitter at Kyle Nabors. Sean is also on Instagram. You can find all of our work at shawlocal.com. Now, Sean, I'll bring someone in here quick. Wiser Trades commenting this morning. I hope it doesn't take 4 bad years to get rid of this regime. And I throw that up there. Once again, thanks, Wiser Trade, for the comment. It's just, I can't believe we're having those type of comments after week 1, and they're completely legitimate. Like, anyone that watched that game yesterday after the Bears came off a 3-14 season, and you get that product. Any thought from a fan today? I can't say like you're overreacting or you're being ridiculous. Everything is valid after what we saw yesterday.
I mean, you should expect, no matter what they're saying, whether they're saying that the passing attack is improving or not, like regardless of what the coaches say in press conferences and all that stuff, like you add the pieces that they added both on offense and defense, you expect to see some sort of improvement. You know, it doesn't have to be like, they don't have to be the team winning by 18 points, but you would expect them to be in the game against your hated rival in week 1. You expect them to be in games and to look competent out there on the field. And, maybe we can talk about like the short passes and the horizontal stuff that they were doing. And maybe that is just the 1 week game plan in this particular game against the Packers. Maybe that's just a one-time thing and it's going to look different next week. But if you're a Bears fan, you got to be saying, I'll believe it when I see it, because that was the whole game plan. And
it was also the game plan.
Work.
It was also the game plan in preseason too. And like, that's a limited sample size, obviously. Right. But you think back to that first preseason game where they had the 2 big plays, those were on screenplays. Like, we didn't see a lot of vertical passing game out of them. We certainly didn't see it yesterday. I mean, how do you go out and you make the trade? You trade away the number 1 overall pick, and DJ Moore gets 2 targets in that game. How is that possible?
I don't know about you, Kyle, but I thought the 2 catches he made, those were 2 of the best plays all day. I mean, those were like,
yeah, on a single drive too, right?
To see. Yeah, they were back-to-back plays on the same drive. 2 catches for 25 yards. He made 2 really nice plays. We saw it all preseason long. I mean, we didn't have a huge sample size, but when DJ Moore was in there, you get him the ball and let him go make a play. I mean, the hard part is getting the ball in his hands. He can make guys miss. It shouldn't be that hard to get the ball in his hands. I am shocked that we're sitting here on Monday after week 1 and he saw 2 targets in that game.
No, it's unacceptable. I mean, you cannot have DJ Moore with 2 targets. And particularly, like, it became pretty apparent pretty quickly that passing game, like their game plan yesterday, was not going to work. They needed to make adjustments. I mean, they had 6 points at halftime. Like, they moved the ball a little bit in that first half. It certainly went downhill, the offense, in the second half. But there was no adjustments to be made in that game. I think back just to, you talk about the DJ Moore plays and how they looked, they provided a bit of a spark. I think of the Darnell Mooney touchdown catch. There's also a Darnell Mooney catch. He made a really nice play, or Justin Fields made a really nice throw where it was a bootleg to the right. And first quarter, and he had to kind of throw off his right leg falling down a little bit to get around the defender. And he put that ball in a perfect spot for Darnell Mooney to get it. And you saw that right there. And I'm like, okay, that's what I expected to see this year. And then it just didn't happen again. It never seemed to happen.
You didn't see them moving Justin Fields outside the pocket to throw, or moving the pocket right or left as much as we did, middle part late last season. And yeah, it's like those. I'm glad you mentioned that play, Kyle, because I was going back and rewatching the game this morning, and that was a play that probably got overlooked, but that was one of their best plays the whole game. If you go back and rewatch the game, and you want to get Justin Fields moving a little bit. That's where he's really, really good, and I don't know that we saw that as much as you would like. And going back to kind of what we were talking about at the beginning with the coaching staff, like Matt LaFleur, sometimes we overcomplicate the NFL. I mean, he put the ball in Aaron Jones's hands. Get the ball to your best player. How many times do we see that with the Chiefs and Travis Kelce and some of these teams, that are consistently winning football games? They just put the ball in the best player's hands. And I feel like it's not rocket science. Get DJ Moore more touches.
Yeah. Also, the Mooney touchdown, I'm pretty sure that was an audible by Fields at the line of scrimmage.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he audibled into that play and got that ball to Mooney himself. Which, I mean, that's what you want him to do. I'm interested to know what the original play call was. We'll never know, of course, but we got so much to get into. Everyone's jumping in.
Kyle, sorry,
Yeah.
just one thought on that. What does it say about your game plan, and what does it say about what your quarterback wants to do when the best play all day is when your quarterback says, "Nah, I'm going to throw this deep." Like, shouldn't that be a sign that
that's what I was kind of alluding to there. I was trying. I mean, listen, Luke Getsy yesterday, that was bad. I mean, from the start, you got Justin Fields on your roster. You have Khalil Herbert. You went out and you signed Donta Foreman. You drafted Roschon Johnson, who we saw play really well in the second half. Looked really physical.
Mm-hmm.
That first drive, you get 3rd and 1 at your own 40. They run that little motion play where Komet comes across the formation. They quick snap it to him. Just like the Packers sniffed it out immediately.
Mm-hmm.
They got
that was a long 1 yard too. That was more than a yard.
And then you do the QB sneak. Like, come on. Like, what the hell was that?
I mean, I don't hate the aggressiveness early in the game on 4th down. You essentially did the same thing twice and it didn't work twice.
Well, you don't need, there was no need to set yourself up for a 4th down in that situation. Just run the damn ball with a running back then.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm sure we'll see that Cole Kmet sneak a few more times this year, and maybe they'll learn from that play, the way they ran it, or something they can learn from up front. But I just don't like the back-to-back sneaks. They're
gonna tell you that we should be able to pick up a yard in that situation.
Sure,
but you're talking about an offensive line where you have a rookie starting at right tackle. Nate Davis has barely been on the field all training camp. You've put Lucas Patrick back in at center. You've had to move Cody Whitehair back to left guard. You're behind a band-aided offensive line in week 1, and then you're going to run that? I mean, the Packers, and it was clear the Packers, they had 3 helmets to the ball before the ball was even snapped.
Yeah, I mean, that was just an unfortunate turn of events. And, on the flip side, the Packers, you give them the short field, which, sure, that's the risk you take when you go for it on 4th down on your own side of the field. But I thought the bigger problem was on that touchdown that he threw to Romeo Doubs, on that following drive. I mean, the Bears front is just getting no pressure. Jordan Love was back there all day. And really, I mean, I think they had 1 sack and a couple QB hits the whole game. The problem that we thought they were going to have on defense is the problem it looks like they're having, Kyle.
Yeah, Eric's been in the chat so far asking us to talk about the lack of blitzes. Eric, knew we'd get there eventually, buddy. Yeah, he said, also, how do you not blitz a basically rookie QB once? The Bears like their deep shell cover 2 defense. It's Matt Eberflus's base defense.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to blitz to get home. They're going to have to. I mean, it's also that, excuse me, that's the problem with the cover 2 base defense in 2023. Like, that's just not the way the NFL is played anymore. You're not going to be able to just get home with your front. And the Bears aren't good enough up front to get home. I mean, they're just not. Even with the additions of DeMarcus Walker and Yannick Ngakoue, you got the 2 rookies and the interior. There was nothing going into the season that should have given the Bears confidence that they were going to be able to get home without blitzing.
Yeah, I mean, you do wonder about the long-term, sort of, can they have success in this scheme? I mean, if you're going to do that, you got to have some real dudes up front who can rush the passer. It worked for the Colts in 2020 and 2021 because they had guys like DeForest Buckner and, Justin Houston, Shaq Leonard. Those guys made this defense really, really good. And, I think, you can be a little bit excited about the linebackers they added, but you also didn't really notice them a whole lot in yesterday's game. And you got to have guys who can rush the passer. It's got to be more than just Yannick Ngakoue getting maybe 8 to 10 sacks this season. That's not going to be enough.
I disagree about the linebackers. like maybe in the pass rush they weren't noticeable, but I thought TJ Edwards and particularly Tremaine Edmonds, I thought he played really well. He was really like noticeable. Like you could their linebackers were considerably faster yesterday than at any point last year.
Well, yeah, they better be. I mean,
That's
the
yeah.
the linebacker group they were trotting out there at the end of last season
That's true.
had
Yeah.
no business being on the field.
Maybe I'm overestimating just because I was looking at competent NFL players. Sorry guys to the guys who were out there at the end of last year, but I mean Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards definitely an upgrade. I thought they played pretty decent though. I mean it's just the pass rush. I mean Jordan Love had all day. They had no chance to get home. Was it the first touchdown to Romeo Dobbs or the second where Eddie Jackson?
Eddie Jackson was the closest man in coverage on the first one.
Yes, and he essentially
He was
Romeo
moving
Dobbs.
he was moving to his left, and then Romeo Dobbs cut the other direction.
Yeah,
he was a step behind him. Yeah.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Eddie Jackson blew that. Like that, you cannot allow the receiver to cross your face coming across the back of the as when you're the safety along the back line of that end zone. I don't know what happened there, but
yeah,
you could tell. I mean, the way Eddie Jackson reacted to the play, trying it back in coverage, he realized like, oh, yep, I blew this one.
There were maybe a couple plays where you have some questions about what Eddie Jackson was doing or thinking, and I do think we do have to remember that he missed a lot of the end of last season.
Missed some time at training camp.
Missed some time, yeah, and missed some time in training camp.
Yeah, but he's a veteran.
He's a veteran. He looked really good in this scheme last year. Let's see how that develops over the next few weeks. You would hope that he's going to be rock solid back there for you.
Yeah, I mean that could be the case. I tend to think this on the defensive side more than the offensive side of I'm giving them a little bit more leeway here. I think that's going to improve. There just seemed to be a lot of guys out of place yesterday on the defense side of the ball at times.
Yeah, and that's what some of the guys in the locker room were saying afterwards when we were asking. They kept going back to communication issues and
yeah, you can tell
little things like that. And I think that shows when you watch the game. I mean, yeah, they just got to get some of that stuff cleaned up. And maybe that's just week one rust. Maybe that's the fact that you had a handful of starters who missed large portions of training camp with injuries. DeMarcus Walker was talking about that. He's like, yeah, man, I haven't really played in a while, which is like,
well, neither than any other NFL player.
Know. It's like, well, then, yeah, I don't know what to make of that. You have a guy sitting out for basically a month with an injury. I get it. He's injured. He's not going to practice. Sure, whatever. But then you come out and say, well, I haven't been playing. It's like, well, you're in there on Sunday. They expect you to get the job done, and you guys couldn't get to the quarterback.
Alan Dunlap checking in this morning. Alan, appreciate the comment. I know Bears don't blitz, but isn't the point of Tampa 2 to avoid big plays downfield? Why was the middle of the field wide open?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd have to study the tape a little bit to give a good answer on why the middle of the field was wide open.
I mean, going back, Eddie Jackson did not have a good game. That's one reason. It doesn't matter about how good the back end of your Tampa 2 defense is if you can't get any pressure on the pass or on the quarterback. I think of the play yesterday, and maybe this is good encapsulation of what the Bears defense was like yesterday. Jordan Love was able to fumble a snap, and he got a lucky bounce that came back to him, right? But he essentially wheels around and just lobs the ball up way up into the air. And Luke Musgrave is standing 30 yards downfield all by himself. And the only reason he doesn't score is because he essentially trips over his own feet. Like, how does that happen?
I mean, that's one of those clearly a communication issue, like we're talking about, Kyle, where somebody wasn't on the same page as everybody else. And I did like obviously you don't like when your quarterback's fumbling the snap, but I liked the action on that play. They had a lot of guys moving the other direction, and then Luke Musgrave sort of leaked out to the left. And the goal of that is to get somebody lost, to get the whole defense shifting the other way, and it worked. And so, yeah, that's something where the Bears have to somebody was in the wrong spot or got fooled by the motion that the Packers were using, the routes they were running, and yeah, the Bears were lucky that wasn't a touchdown. I think they wound up scoring on that drive anyway, but
Yeah, they did.
yeah, it wasn't good.
Uh, Alan also had a comment earlier that I missed that said DJ Moore had 3 targets, one just went the other way for the pick six. Let's go back to Justin for a few minutes
Yeah.
here, and let's hit on that the interception and the fumble.
Mm-hmm.
The interception, I mean, it was brutal. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he was staring down the receiver. I mean, that was an easy pick for Quay Walker, but I don't like, I don't know. At that point, like the game's out of hands. He's just
He's
forcing
just
the
trying to make a
ball.
play.
Like things.
I kind of get it at that point.
Yeah, but with that being said, before that, he did not. Justin Fields did not play well yesterday. I'm not saying he was the reason they lost. They lost for many reasons yesterday, but there were some things out of Justin Fields that were concerning yesterday, including the fact that there were a couple different times where he took sacks again, where I'm like, kid, just get rid of the damn ball. Like, just not exactly what you want to see out of Fields coming into year 3.
Yeah, that second half, I mean, you get down, you got to pass the ball, you got to try to move upfield and get some points back quickly. I do agree that second half, there were some times where he was holding on to the football a little bit too long. The fumble, like, I like what he was doing on the play. I think that was a 3rd and 3, if I recall. And yeah, maybe there wasn't anybody open, and he was trying to make a play and get a first down. We saw that so many times last year. I have no problem with that decision, but obviously you got to hold on to the football. We saw him fumble a lot last year. That was an issue, as were the sacks. And you just don't want this to spiral into the same mistakes we saw a year ago. I think the fact that we didn't see those mistakes in that first half, it could be, something to feel positive about, because it's different when you're down by 14, 20 points in the second half. You're going to be aggressive to try to make some plays. Just like the interception we were talking about. Yeah, he probably shouldn't have thrown that football. He said afterwards that he should have gone towards the sideline or something.
Well, the turnovers, like I said, particularly the interception didn't bother me all that much with Fields. It's more, I think there was a play where Justin, I don't know if he was mentioned about, or if he was asked about this, but like he got sacked from behind along the sideline by Lucas Van Ness, Barrington alum.
Yeah.
And Van Ness
in the red zone, right?
Yeah, and Van Ness closed quickly on him. I give him that, and that's what I'm guessing Fields gonna be like. I really just didn't think the kid was gonna get there that fast. Yeah. But that was like a 7-yard loss, and that really hampered that drive. Like that ball's got to get out of Justin Fields' hands. He's out of the pocket. Get rid of the ball. Just
that should have been I mean, look, he's always trying to make a play. That's a perfect example where, in watching that play live, that happened right in front of me, and I was watching the same receivers that he was, and there was nothing there. He's just got to throw that ball away. You don't want to take a loss right there. You don't want to be moving backwards, especially in the red zone. I personally, I don't necessarily think this was like a terrible game from Justin Fields, given what the offense was trying to do. I have more questions about the game plan and the plan of attack offensively than I do about Justin Fields personally.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, what I'm saying is there's a lot of times we want to make excuses for Justin Fields, and there's a lot of things that we can say that coaching staff, blah blah blah, and that's certainly a case again.
Mm-hmm.
But we're reaching the point now where he's making the same mistakes that you have to at least acknowledge them. And there were signs yesterday that I see Van Ness and Jaden Reed locally hits thanks y'all local. Hey, it's not our fault. We didn't have Lucas Van Ness running down Justin Fields yesterday. But yeah, I mean the game plan, man. Here's a question. I want to make sure to I'll give proper credit here. I was listening to Hogan Johns a little bit last night while wrapping stuff up, and I think it was Adam brought this up. I say Adam, Hogue brought it up about if you're going to have that game plan with that kind of short passing attack, why is Equanimous St. Brown inactive?
That is a great point, and that's Adam Hogue, he thinks of stuff like that. He's a special teams coordinator. I love that comment. Yeah, I have no idea why EQ was inactive. He wasn't on the injury report all week. I expected a receiver to be inactive, and I thought it was probably going to be Velus Jones just because they have 7 on the roster, and you very rarely see an NFL team keep 7 active wide receivers on game day. But I did not expect 2. That was a bit surprising, Kyle.
Yeah. And then it's surprising that he's inactive with that game plan. And
He's your best blocker as a receiver.
Oh, man.
They talked about that. How many times did they talk about that last year?
Yeah. I mean, that was the reason
Like nonstop. Like anytime you talked about EQ, it was like, oh, he's a great blocker as a wide receiver.
They brought him back in the offseason, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah, they signed him before the season ended. It was like week 18, and they gave him a 1-year extension.
Yeah. And then he's inactive week 1. And meanwhile, Chase Claypool, who Ryan Poles went and gave up essentially a first-round pick, the number 32 overall pick last year. I think I'm out on Chase Claypool.
You're out week 1. You're out.
Well, I'm going back to last year, and listen, he got his ass handed to him all day yesterday trying to block, and he just did not seem to have any desire to be out there blocking. I'm done.
Look,
like
Chase Claypool wants to catch the football and score touchdowns and celebrate. I know he's got a big body; he should be able to block, but part of me is not surprised that you're saying that, Kyle.
No, I mean I'm not entirely shocked too. We saw it last year with him, but you gave up a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah,
and if you get nothing out of him, which
zero catches, 2 targets, 0 catches.
If he's not going to be a factor in the passing game, if he can't block, I mean, he was in the medical tent at least twice yesterday, on and off the field. I mean, we've seen this before with him. I think I'm done. I think I'm out on Chase Claypool.
Yeah, that was not the season debut that you wanted to see from Chase Claypool. He dropped a pass in that first half. I think it was kind of tipped at the line of scrimmage, though. I maybe give him a pass on that, but it was still right there. He still could have caught it. And really, like, they didn't hardly use him. Like, it wasn't like he had a whole bunch of targets either. He just wasn't really a factor at all.
No, he wasn't. CJ, I think give me a hard time for calling a number 32 a first-round pick. Well, technically, in most years, it would be a first-round pick. But if you're saying, well, like, LOL, like it's the number 32 overall pick. I mean, there are an incredible amount of quality players that you can take late in that first round, early in that second round, throughout the second round. Giving up a 2nd-round pick for a wide receiver is that's not something a GM can just, or you should just wash off, right? Like if Chase Claypool is not what you expected him to be when you made that trade, that's, to me, that's just one more knock against Ryan Poles and the pro scouting staff, which let's be frank here. The pro scouting staff has not been good under Ryan Poles so far. It's still short sample size here, but it's not been promising.
Yeah, look, I mean, you can scout guys, you can watch as much tape as you want. You can spend all day watching tape. But that's not going to give you, anytime you're trading for a guy at another organization, there's going to be things that you don't know. There's going to be personality stuff and behind the scenes stuff that you don't know. And, there was, I mean, Kyle, you were talking up Chase Claypool when he was drafted, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot to like on the field. And when things were going well in Pittsburgh, there was a lot to like. And I get it. But we just haven't seen any of that in Chicago, like at all. There's been nothing. And you wonder if this is, how long this is really going to work for. I shouldn't say work. It's not working. You wonder how long this is going to last.
Well, I mean, he's in the final year of his contract. I mean, that was bad yesterday from him. It's just not what you wanted to see. There were just so many things this offseason that you were hoping to see progression from, to know that the Bears were on the right track. There just was not a lot yesterday to make you feel better.
No, there wasn't. And you wonder if Matt Eberflus might, next year look to get his guys a little more action in the preseason. I don't even know, that wouldn't solve all your issues, but you had so many guys, the guys we're talking about, Eddie Jackson, Chase Claypool, those were guys who missed a lot of time. Lucas Patrick, DeMarcus Walker, those guys missed a lot of time with injuries. And I know you can't help injuries, but they're also extremely cautious in training camp. They if guys have any little thing, they're going to sit them during training camp practices, and you just wonder what there's got to be a sweet spot where you can figure this out and get guys practice time while still protecting them.
Shaw Locals Bears Insider Podcast is sponsored by Ken Nelson Auto Group, proudly serving the Sauk Valley area for over 55 years. Ken Nelson Auto Group offers 10 new vehicle franchises in one convenient location right here in Dixon, Illinois. Shop a great selection of new and pre-owned vehicles at kennelsonauto.com. Again, you can find all of our work at shawlocal.com. We got a little bit more time with you here, Sean. What time does Matt Eberflus speak today?
I think he's at like 12:20, 12:30, something like that.
Yeah, so quickly, what do you expect to hear from Matt Eberflus today?
I'll say this. I expect him to be very, even-tempered, mild. This is one game, blah, blah, blah. What you would expect from any coach. Here's the thing, though. Like, I get it that there's a lot going on in an NFL game, and coaches are going to be coaches and they want to watch the tape, but I'm getting tired of him saying, deflecting the questions after the game by saying he's got to go back and watch the tape. I mean, he couldn't say anything good or bad about Justin Fields' game last night.
But he could comment on Jordan Love.
But he could comment on Jordan Love had a nice game, did some nice things out there. Like, he couldn't even say that about Justin Fields. And I would hope that he has some sort of evaluation to give us today. Like, hey, how did Justin do? Like, I feel like he's got to say something about that.
Yeah, I mean, they have to address the offense and what happened yesterday on a much larger scale than they did in the post game. I want to go over to Jordan Love quickly, though, because I was getting a little. You're in the press box, you can't hear it. I was getting a little annoyed with the, and I guess I should have expected it. It's Bears, Packers, but like they start doing the Jordan Love comparisons against the Bears and Aaron Rodgers and all that. Like the stat line for Jordan Love at the end of the game yesterday looks pretty decent. 15 to 27. I want to say 245 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jordan Love was not very good yesterday, though.
I mean, the first half especially did not look good for him either. It has me thinking maybe this Bears defense is just not very good, and maybe it's a case where this defense is going to make any quarterback look good.
If they're going to give up 30 points a game again this year or whatever, upper 20s, they're in a lot of trouble. I mean, we're looking at a lot of losses for the Bears again this year.
Yeah, I mean, they got to improve on that side of the ball as well, and I don't know. There's not going to be a quick fix for the pass rush, I don't think, unless they're going out to acquire somebody at the trade deadline, and that's concerning. But yeah, I mean, Jordan Love, like, it was one of those cases where like he quietly put together a really nice game, and in that second half, he was making the right throws, and they were moving the ball and scoring touchdowns. It wasn't like, it wasn't like a crazy. There's not like one play you look at and say, "Wow, Jordan Love, look at that play." He was just making the right moves and throwing the ball where he needed to throw it.
Yeah, I mean, he at the end of the day, he didn't turn the ball over. Like.
That's the other thing. The defense did not create a single turnover, and we know how much Matt Eberflus wants to create turnovers, and that was a big thing when he was hired. Top 10 with the Colts all 4 years he was a coordinator. They were decent last year in the turnover department. I'd have to go back and look it up. I think they were like middle of the pack. But yeah, that's gotta start. They got to start creating some turnovers if they want to win football games.
Yeah, going back to Jordan Love. He you get the long screenplay to Aaron Jones. You got the Luke Musgrave. Like the yardage total is definitely inflated. The one throw I will say, that first touchdown to Romeo Doubs, I think it was the first touchdown, was really good though. Like it was a perfectly placed ball. up, kind of up above the defender, one-on-one,
Had some
put the
zip
ball,
on it.
yeah,
Yep.
put the ball exactly where he needed to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're the Packers, there's a lot of good things you can look at from this game and feel positive moving forward. They did this all without, you know, one of their top receivers, Christian Watson. So I mean, I'm not ready to anoint Jordan Love like a really, a top 10 quarterback, but there's a lot to like in what you saw from him yesterday if
Well,
you're the
Rick,
Packers.
so Rick says, how can the Bears defense be this bad with a defensive-minded head coach?
That's a fair question.
There was no Christian Watson yesterday. Outside of that, like Aaron Jones pulls up his hammy on that long touchdown. Jaden Reed was on and off the field. I mean,
I didn't hear anything about it afterwards, but Jaden Reed looked like he got hurt pretty bad too.
you're right. I mean, you got Samari Torre out there, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Luke Musgrave. I mean, this is not exactly a murderer's row on offense that the Green Bay Packers ran out there yesterday, and didn't matter.
No, that's the thing. Like Green Bay itself is, going through its own sort of youth movement right here. They got a lot of young guys, especially in that pass catching department at receiver and tight end.
That shows you how much better the Packers organization.
I think that's exactly it, Kyle. I mean, the depth of talent that they have, the way that they're able to find guys like Romeo Doubs and what was he, a 4th round pick, 4th, 5th, something like that. You can, that's what you want to see out of Ryan Poles and the Bears. You want guys like Tyler Scott to become really good football players. And I know he's a rookie. That was his first game. Like, any of those rookies, it's going to take a little time. But ideally, you would be seeing guys like Velus Jones, who you couldn't even give a jersey to, start to make some plays here in their second year.
I can't believe this is where we're finishing our first show. I did not expect to. And let's put some positives on it. Let's finish with some positives today. We will be back with you later this week. We'll talk Bears, Bucks, going into week 2 here. What were some positives you took away from yesterday?
Some positives from yesterday.
I know. Hard to do after that.
I gotta really scratch my head here, but I did think that Tyler Scott was decent as a kick returner for what that's worth. He's like I said, he's a rookie. He's going to improve as he goes along. I think Velus Jones is still probably a better kick returner. That he was really, really good last year, but if that's your only consistent role, I don't know that they can give him a jersey.
Right.
I have to I have to watch Tyreek Stevenson a little bit more closely again as I rewatch the game. But I thought there were, you could see his physicality, especially there was that one tackle early in the game. Like you see why they like him, and maybe he's going to put himself in better positions as he, gets a little bit more experience. And then Roschon Johnson, I mean, the guy showed exactly what he showed in the preseason. He's so physical. He will lower his shoulder and hit a dude, and he's not afraid to just go out there and play football. And that's what you want in a running back.
We heard it really throughout training camp in the preseason that Roschon Johnson might be their best back. We both really liked him when they made that pick out of Texas. It was good to see that. The other thing that I'll highlight is if Chase Claypool really is going to struggle again, you have to have a good season from Darnell Mooney, and Darnell Mooney in a contract year, just like Chase Claypool. I thought Darnell Mooney acquitted himself really well yesterday, making a lot of big plays, seemed to be in the right spots when he needed to for Justin Fields.
That's a great point, Kyle. That's another one that I wanted to mention. Like, you can still, even though Mooney missed a bunch of games at the end of last season, you can see that connection with Justin. Like, those two guys are on the same page. They have, at this point, they've played together a long time now, several years together. You can see that they know what each other is thinking. And yeah, I thought Darnell Mooney played a really nice game yesterday.
Anything else, Sean, that we haven't hit on you want to talk about before we jump off?
I mean, no, I think it just comes back to, getting the ball in your playmakers' hands, get DJ more and more touches. And I hope for Bears fans' sake that this was just the game plan for this particular matchup. Maybe they saw something in the Packers that they thought they could exploit out wide. I really hope that that's not going to be the what they think is their bread and butter this season, because it didn't look like it yesterday.
No, there's
It's
got to be a.
it's okay to throw screen passes, like especially like we saw that in the preseason, but you have to
Well, I mean,
mix it up. You have to have like
we've been begging the Bears to improve their screen game for
all
years.
of the Matt Nagy years.
Yeah,
we said, why don't you throw one screen pass?
Yeah. So I mean, listen. You want to get playmakers out in space, particularly at the NFL level. But that yesterday was not the answer. So it'll be interesting to see what they come back with in week 2. It's gonna be an interesting day at Hallis Hall to see what Matt Eberflus has to say, get some injury updates out of there. But we're going to get out of here and let Sean head out to Hallis Hall. Thank you, everyone who joined us live this morning on YouTube and Facebook. You can leave a comment if you're listening to this later. You can also download this as the podcast version on any of the apps where you get podcasts from. For now, we're going to go ahead and sign off, though. For Sean Hammond, I am Kyle Nabors. We'll be back with you guys later this week to preview week 2. Later, everyone.